So I have 3 residentials, Airbnb, commercial, business. But I've made millions. And I don't feel like I need drugs or alcohol to do that. And most people just quit too soon. You can't do it forever. They will only grow when they're uncomfortable. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. But it's not easy to work with me.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I would now. I feel
Welcome
good.
back to another episode of the Spicy Waitress Diaries. I'm your host Tia, and this is Opal. And today we're here with the lovely V. V is a self-made millionaire. She now travels around the globe, helping women build their empire. Welcome to our podcast, V.
Thank you for having me.
Let's jump into our first question. How did you start in the sex industry?
Long story short, I never would have pictured myself to ever be a dancer. It was actually during a time in my life I'd gotten divorced. So ended a 6.5-year relationship. I was married really young and I was working as a nutritionist. And I've been doing that for quite a while, but COVID hit.
Okay.
So obviously everything kind of changed. Gyms closed. People didn't really see value investing in their nutrition at that moment. So I had decided to actually go back to uni. And I was thinking like, maybe I need to add something else into, my life. Started studying psychology. And then I remember just kind of like trying to work, go to uni. And at the time, my daughter was 1. So I have a 1-year-old. And life was just crazy. Like you're trying to study full time, work. And one of my really good friends who I'm actually over here in Melbourne with right now, she was like telling me about like being a dancer. And she had been bartending there for like quite a while. And I was just like, she's like, yeah, you'd be really good at it. And I'm like, no. And I just remember the first time she said, I was like, absolutely not, no way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can understand why people have a bit of a stigma to this industry because I was one of those people that I had never stepped foot in a strip club. It wasn't what I thought maybe stripping even was. And I think just like over the months, she kind of kept bringing it up. And one day I was like, just out of curiosity, I was like, how much do the top girls make? And she was like, like some of them can make up to $10,000 a week. And I was like, whoa. And I'll never forget this moment. And I said to her, I was like, if I make $1,000 or $2,000 a week, that would change my life. Because back then, I'm pretty much like living paycheck to paycheck, could afford rent and, to look after my daughter. It wasn't like I was like really struggling, but I wasn't doing well. And especially after a divorce, because now you're like doing it all by yourself. And pretty much I started again. So I remember her saying that. And even in that moment, I still didn't jump at the opportunity. I was like very hesitant. And it was probably just like that fear of getting into the industry. She was like pretty much like, you should just come in and have a look. And I went in and I'm sitting there watching the girls get on stage. And a guy comes and asks me for a lap dance. And I was like, I don't even work here. And then my friends with me going, oh, this is a sign, like you should work here. And then I left the club and I was like, yeah, no, it was nice. But even in that moment again, I was still actually really scared and like didn't jump at it. And she just pretty much said to me, she's spoken to her boss, it's now or never. You have to start or that's it. Because they were actually letting go a lot of girls during COVID. My friend, she like really vouched for me. She's like, she'll be really good at it. Like, trust me, I know her and I've known her for a while.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, fuck, like I felt like I didn't have a choice. And I was doing everything like, no, I want to get my body in shape first. I don't know how to dance. Like, because I never came from any dancing background. I was very sporty. And yeah, I then pretty much started. And my very first night, I was lucky, but I got booked with another dancer and it was actually a girl booking me. So it made it so nice. She was like teaching me how to give a lap dance. And on and off all night, booked me all night on my first. I don't know. I think that was just like a really nice way to ease into the industry because I know a lot of women don't get that. You get put in your lingerie, you get thrown on the floor. It's very scary and intimidating. Yeah, literally what got me started.
So just like, no question, just getting the industry, like start, you really didn't have a choice, but no.
Yeah, and then when I do something, I'm all in.
So from that, have you experienced any negative stuff in the industry? Like how has your experience been?
I feel not really from people that like obviously come in and there to have a good time. I was very open and honest that I did this. My mum was very hesitant when I obviously told her I was getting into the industry, but more from she was like, didn't want to see me go down a path of like drugs and alcohol or thinking like that because you're a stripper that's the avenue, which does happen to obviously some dancers. I would think the negativity probably came from other dancers when I started. Where I work now is actually very collaborative and everyone's quite supportive, but I felt like when I stepped into the industry, there was like a few old school dancers where I think it was a little bit more cutthroat. It wasn't like it is today where I think women empower each other a little bit more and it can be like we all go further together. So I think there was like a little bit of bullying and that kind of thing. And because I stepped in and I was like good very quickly. I think in the beginning, they almost like trying to target you to bring you down a little bit. And in the first few months, I remember, because I never worked with women before, there was like a couple of situations that I had, but I didn't want to tell anyone about it because I was like, oh, I'm like the new girl. I don't want to create drama. So I tried to be head down, 2 girls in particular. And I remember having so much anxiety. I didn't want to go to work. I just felt so uncomfortable. I was like, I'm just here trying to, make money. Yeah. So pretty much I went through that whole experience. But if anything, I was like, no, but I have a daughter and I'm actually here for the reason. So it forced me to just kind of like go head down, and I kind of worked on my own. Like you ladies see a lot now what I put online, but for 3 years, I was 6 nights a week and you never saw me post about it. I was just hardcore, like, so
How do you work 6 nights a week back to back?
I actually feel like that sounds easy to me now, because I will, like, here I'm doing 7 nights and then I have to now run all the businesses and do everything on top of. So now it's actually quite a lot. I do work very long days, like, if I have to do 18 hours, if I have to set for 26 hours, if I have to just do things like this in days, I do make sure that I prioritize catching up on rest when I can. So I know for this week, there's not going to be a lot of sleep, but I think it's the systems that you have in place. So I go in depth in this, like with a lot of girls that I mentor, but it's like you need to have the right systems to support what you do. So I'm very healthy when it comes to nutrition. Like I don't eat sugar, I don't eat anything processed, and I am carnivore. So that kind of gives you for me, it's not for everyone, people vegan, vegetarian, don't come at me. I think each their own, what works for you, but it's like I hardly get sick. It gives me very sustained levels of energy. So I feel like I can operate at a really good level. I prioritize sleep. I always move my body. I've been very active. It's more what I don't do that actually reserves my energy. So I think people say yes to too many things and you're burning yourself out because you're trying to show off in so many areas of life. The level that I have, I think, achieved in this industry, it did come at a big sacrifice through many things. Now, I'm not going out with friends. I'm not doing a lot of things. And a lot of the women that I work with now do have a lot more balance. They're not full-time in this industry. They do it a couple of days a week and still maximize it. But to the level that I have done it at, I was like, short-term sacrifices. Yeah, maybe you should take care of yourself if you want to do it long-term.
Yeah. When you were going through all that 3 years of gown time, you weren't seeing any friends or anything. You were just working.
Not really. Yep. I would see the girls at work and, you kind of say hi in that little bit. And I could probably say I went out once a year in that time.
Do you think that affected your mental health at all? I guess you saw the girls at work, but...
Not really. Like, I'm someone, I think my personality is very extrovert. Like, I have an extrovert personality to get along with a lot of people, but I love my own company. And I think the most important thing for me was just being a mum at that point. So it was like showing up for my daughter. I feel like that fulfilled me and gave me kind of like that love and that company of what I needed. I'm not someone who really needs that.
Yeah.
From people. It's very social. I feel like we're so social for work. So it drains me. I'm like, I just want to read a book.
Have you ever done topless waitressing?
I did. Yeah.
Wow.
So in my first year, on top of those 6 nights a week, I used to do my daughter would go to her dad's just on the weekend.
Yeah.
So Fridays, Saturdays, and some Sundays, if it was like more through the summers, maybe boat parties, I used to do private waitressing jobs before my shifts into the club.
Okay. And how was your experience with that?
Yeah, I loved it. Like, I was really like, I didn't have any bad experiences or anything like that. I did start out working for like agencies, where you go around and you do the jobs and they refer you in the jobs board and got to know the girls. Through that, you obviously, like, you go do some of them, you build regulars. And then even in the beginning, like I started doing before, it was like, I started out at topless, then nude. And I think some girls come into it and they want to cherry pick their rates. I'm like, oh, if you're starting from the beginning and you need to build your clientele, it's the same as dancers in the club who refuse to do like a 10-minute dance. They only want to go VIP. I'm just like, everyone starts somewhere. So yeah, I liked it. The boat parties were fun, but I don't know. I'm not sure if it's where you start, because I started dancing and then added that in. For me, I felt like I can entertain a group, but I'm much better one-on-one. And I think I've mentored actually private waitresses that have switched to the dancing side or kept both. And some women just have that personality to entertain a big crowd. And for me, it felt like, maybe I'd have 30 people trying to talk to me at once sort of thing. And I much preferred the club to be like one-on-one. I think it depends on your personality type. Some women really thrive better with like the group things. But for me, it was always an add-on. But yeah, I did actually partake in amazing.
When did you do it? So you started 3 years and then did topless, or it was like in your first
year? My first year, I started dancing. And then I think maybe like 1 or 2 months, I added on waitressing. Like, so just before or after work. So I used to go do like the boat jobs or any afternoon job. And I would just say I couldn't extend. Like, I'd be like, because I have to go off to the club. So I would have my hours sort of set in the jobs that I could do. And generally, it just maybe like a 4-hour job. And then I'd go straight into the club. It would be even, say, a weeknight, because we can close early in Perth if it's quiet. I'd be like on the job boards, because no girls were available for ASAP on like a Wednesday at 1 or 2 in the morning.
Oh, I know.
So I'd pick up like casino bookings and like I had some really fun wild time. Some of my best memories actually been from private.
For the last few years, you've been mentoring people now, and
It's actually only been a year and a half.
a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it grew very quickly from
Yeah,
I sort of started.
very exciting.
Yeah.
With that, you teach people how to save their money and build wealth. What does your saving situation look like now? Like, how did you structure that when you started doing it?
I think it's different for every girl. I don't think that there's like one set answer that I actually give the girls. So the way that I actually structure the course is there's like a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3. So phase 1, we actually just focus on maximizing their earnings. So that's whatever they're currently doing, whether they're OnlyFans creators, dancers. What are you currently doing? Do you have the right systems in place to support you so you're not hitting burnout? What are your goals in this industry? What do you want to achieve? So I get them to get very clear on all of that and actually start making more money. And then after that, we switch to phase 2, which is beyond earnings, and that's growth and investment. And I do focus a little bit around like their money mindset, because I think a lot of women step into this industry and they earn more money than a normal job, but then their lifestyle increases and they don't really have much to show for it, even though they went from a normal job to this industry and not a lot has changed for them. They might have some nicer things. They can afford a few surgeries. They go buy a bag. Like, we're guilty of it. I've done it as well, you know, but I think it's their mindset around money that has to be the big shift in that long term and that delayed gratification. It's sometimes simply, depending where she's at, breaking it down to be like, I'm not impressed how much money you make. How much of that do you actually keep? So actually switching the focus when I start to help them with their savings is like, even for the first 30 days, we do this exercise where I say, anything you want to go spend, I want you to ask yourself, is it transformational or is it transactional? Like, does it actually change or align with who you say you are, where you want to be? Or is it just something that you want? And I get them to start just moving money across to this account. I say, if you can, just don't spend it. And if after 30 days you still want whatever it was, but most of the time you'll actually find a lot of women in this industry are just spending money on things they could do without. And 30 days later, when you look back, you'll still get that same dopamine hit to be saving that money and putting that money across. So I like to start really small, and it's like I build them out over 6 months. Like, we do a lot of different things. If you can't learn at your current income to save money, it's not going to matter if I help you make any more money. You're not going to save more. It's like the fundamentals. Even if someone was only making $50,000 a year, how much of that can you keep? How much can you save? Obviously, it's not a lot with today's economy, but then, yeah, so we start there. We're talking about mine now. I honestly work so much that I feel I don't spend. Like, I don't think about saving. I don't even pay myself a wage all year, because I'm quite lucky now. Like, the focus, I've paid off my home. I have investments and everything, but everything goes into the companies. And then at the end of the year, I'm like, oh yeah, like, what do I need? And I might just like transfer some over now. My accountant will tell me the numbers, but I just don't really spend a lot. Like, when you work so much, I'm always trying to put the money back into areas that actually will make me more money now.
So you have like a system where you get the cash, and then what does that look like? Do you pay your taxes? And
I pay so much in tax.
Yeah.
This year alone, because I've only done the first year, I think I've already spent over $250,000 on tax. So there is a big misconception that we don't pay tax, and everything is like set up like the right way. Like, I have a really good accountant. He just sends everything through. I'm not like all over this with the numbers, but I see it come out and he'll be like, yep, 75,000 has to go to tax this month, this and that. And like, I'm registered for GST. I have a company. I pay myself a wage. So it's company tax, income tax. Yeah, so it's
a painful thing.
I actually see it the other way. Like, I do believe in Australia, yes, we're taxed really, really high compared to other countries. But I look at it as if I'm being taxed, I'm making money.
Good mindset.
But now, like, the direction, because even my mindset through this whole journey has changed a lot. I think a lot of people work for their money. And as soon as you stop making money, right? So I try to think about like the wealthy people, not just rich for like the time being. If you were to stop tomorrow, like, how long could you actually live and survive off of? And this is where it comes to assets and actually buying things that will make you money, and it's actually a lot more tax effective. So if you're looking at like income tax, it obviously gets really high, but if you create companies, if you buy assets that actually produce income, it's like the legal way to pay your taxes in the most tax effective way, as opposed to women just like working and earning a huge salary and you get taxed crazy on something like that.
did you teach yourself everything?
Yeah, like, I'm quite interested when it comes to that kind of thing. So I've read like a lot of books, but then it's just through going through other mentors, through having a great accountant. I can't stress that enough for the girls.
Yeah.
It's like, your accountant needs to, in my opinion, like, I've just always learned very early on to never take advice from someone who's not extremely further ahead in that particular area. They can maybe add value to your like in other areas. So for me, with an accountant, I'm like, if you don't have millions or have a company that you've built and run and you can't even protect and build your own money, how could you tell me how to do it with mine? So I think the biggest mistake people make as well is like, they're not set up the right way, especially for dancers. finances, because this isn't really given to us, that they don't have the right accountant. They're not paying their taxes. They're not putting things in. And I always say to the girls, I'm like, with all that cash, tell me what you're going to spend that cash on when they don't declare it. Because there's always things that you could go without. It's holidays, it's surgery, it's bags. It's nothing that they go invest that money into that actually makes them money. So it's like, you are actually better to go and pay the tax on that money and put it to use, rather than you save it because you're worried about the tax, but then you end up wasting it, for a lot of girls.
I actually, when I moved to Melbourne, I got a mentor, and that's kind of what flipped my whole experience. And then I met Opal, and it was really good because I was learning from people who had what I wanted, and you learn from people who actually have the fruit on their tree. And it's like, when you start doing that, then you actually start to move forward instead of staying stuck. Even speaking to clients as well in the strip club and at jobs and stuff, you learn so much because they've obviously built themselves up. They're a lot older than you, and they might be very successful. So I just will pick their brain.
But I do that in the club.
Yeah, that's the way you need to be as well. Because I've been with a party. Yeah, and talk about yourself. It's a cute.
Go to so many parties. You can go to 4 on one weekend and meet 30 people at one job, and it's like, how many people there can you learn from? But if you're just partying the whole time, then you're really wasting those opportunities.
Yeah. I think the networking is one of the best things from that I've taken away from this industry. I've had so many clients that have given me such great advice, but also counter to that, I've also learned from the advice that you shouldn't take, from the way that a man maybe can come in and behave in the club, to his background, to that. You learn to, in certain areas, people are experts and will know a lot more than you, and they can really educate you during your time as well. So
it's usually the ones that don't boast up about it. So we talk a lot about the psychology of saving, and we talk about this mentality where you spend more, you save more. I know you just mentioned it before. What do you reckon the best ways to curve that kind of mindset are?
I think one of the best things that you can do if you're kind of trying to get into this, if you're really conscious of money, the best book that I could ever recommend is Rich Dad Poor Dad. It will completely flip your mindset. And it's not our fault. It's how we're brought up. It's who we're surrounded by, especially now as what's happened with the economy and everything like that. I think there's going to be a really big divide between the rich and the poor. And from even schooling, we are not even taught in school how to make our money work for us. So I think that was probably a book that I read, and to really understand the difference between assets and liabilities, to understand money, to understand what people will tell you as you grow up as well about money, and all these money beliefs that we actually have that are not true, but they are given to us by other people who are not extremely successful as well. They don't teach it in school, but in my opinion, we need school because, we need nurses, doctors, and everything like that. I don't know. I just feel like school is there to make great employees. And if you want to be really successful, then that's not the avenue that you'll take, in my opinion.
I actually do when I moved here, when I got the mentor, I did a network marketing business, and this is I'm not doing it anymore, but that's everything that they tell us, and it's just trying to build wealth instead, and putting your money in a good spot. And it's that really helped with a lot of how I think about things now. So I think everyone really needs to learn and look into stuff like that. And obviously you mentoring people, people really do need that.
Yeah, I think even the biggest misconception, there's nothing wrong with getting yourself a home, and I did that for myself. A lot of people think that they want to get that first place for themselves, and to think that that's an asset. And sure, it can build equity, but usually that money even invested for you to make you money. Yeah, I think it's the first stepping stone that people take when they're trying to build wealth. That I'm going to buy myself a home, and they'll buy themselves a home to live in, and it's not producing income for you, and it sits there. And hopefully you're brought in a good area, you've got land, it will go up in value. You can take that equity later and invest it. But had you have just invested that money first in a different area, delayed that gratification, and you'd be further ahead. It's easier.
Yeah. What assets do you have?
I have a few now. So, and I'm actually in the process of transitioning and switching my portfolio. So I have 3 residentials, and then another one being built right now. And then I have an Airbnb here in Melbourne as well. Then I'm switching my focus to commercial. So I have some really, really big projects and going to sell off. I think 2 of my properties, commercial, and then business. I think it's great to diversify, but when I look at where I think I've made most of my money, it's actually in business. You're trying to buy a property and you're hoping to get maybe 6-8% return on your money. When I invest money in business, it's 1,000% of it's just, there's no comparison. So I think it's great to have property. I think it's great to, kind of have a safety net out there, have a few properties. I think commercial for me is the area that I want to go down. But for me, it's more business. I want to make more money. I'm not so focused on
And is that your own business or other people's businesses?
A few. So yeah, I have a couple of businesses now that are my own. And part of phase 3, which I don't really put this out online, is once I've worked with a girl through phase 1, phase 2, I go through this process of helping them build out multiple income streams for themselves. And we talk about the different areas, the skills that you learn in this industry that you can take to something else. And then there are a couple of girls that have really good ideas that want to partner. So then I want to like go on and because I've worked with them for like over 12 months now. Yeah. So it's like you see every side, how committed they are, how successful they actually want to be. And out of even 100 girls that I've mentored over in the last 12 months, it's been over 100. I'm only going into business with 2 of them because not everyone has that idea yet, or it might take them a while, or they have to work for a while like this before they're going to have those ideas.
I've seen on your stories, and obviously you spoke with us before, that you are working while we are here. What keeps you working in the industry?
It's hard because not even the money does it for me anymore. It's when I didn't have money, that was the driving force, right? You know, I saw how much money I could make in this industry. I was very ambitious and I actually didn't come from anything. So, you know, like my mother, she was a drug addict and I was one of 6 kids. And there was like oftentimes we always wore like hand-me-down clothes or would get food from the churches and things like that. But to me, I never took that as like having a victim mentality. I use that as fuel to be like, you know, I want a life that no one can ever take away from me and to obviously give my daughter a really nice life. So that was my fuel and that was my ambition. But now that I have money, because that's what used to drive me to go to the club, it's now the business, the Ventress, because I know that when I go in, there's so many girls watching me and it's like, I can't give up. I can't go home early and I'm not there full time anymore. My focus has been to more travel around, share what I'm doing. But I like to, for example, like I'm over here in Melbourne for the week. I like to work a week to show that it's possible for women in their clubs as well. And now I'm starting to bring out the vlogs where I actually talk about how much money I make. And because there's been this big misconception, women have watched me and go, oh no, it's just that kind of money in Perth. So I'll step into their club and I'll work for a week and I'll tell them how much I make. And that's without regulars. I think if you invest a lot of time into a club, you build up your regular clientele and it's easier to make high figures. But generally, yeah, I've always been able to go in and turn over a number and be like, no, but are you making this? This is here in your club this week before I actually present a masterclass to show them what's possible for them. And it keeps me sharp as well. You should teach them and to be able to go into their clubs and like test and learn. It's more about like being there for them.
When do you think you'll stop?
I have certain things that I want to achieve before I stop. So it's not a set time frame. I'm part-time for now. I have like a few business ideas that I like really want to start to take up my time and hopefully by the end of this year. But it's just sort of depends. Like it's hard to say until certain things fall into place with the businesses. I bring this up a lot with the girls that I mentor. You start to turn over a lot of money in this industry. So then when you want to focus on a business, like I had to put, you know, thousands of hours into the Ventress before it started to like really turn over great money. You're not paid for that time. Right? When you start businesses, you are not paid for all the hours. And a lot of women in this industry, when they used to just, oh, but I could go into the club tonight and I could make thousands. It's really hard to want to put your energy into things and you have to learn to work and not get paid. So the week before I went to New Zealand, this is quite recently, I went to the club for 1 week in Perth and I made 18,800. And then I flew into New Zealand, only worked a few nights, made 6,000. Here, I'll make over 10 this week. It's hard because you get tempted by like that fast, quick money. I also learned in business that, if you dedicate, if you're like serious about this and you really believe in your product, you do have to put a lot of hours in unpaid before you'll get the reward. And most people just quit too soon.
Doing the business, like we know we work 5 days a week on arms and like we'll have our meetings and our admin days and shoot days and no one's paying us for them. And then we will kind of think that people understand that and like we'll try and be like, let's go do this. And it's like they're not getting paid for it. And they kind of are like, why am I doing that then? And so we really tried to like talk about how it's important, like networking events and stuff. It's like you go for free, you build your clientele, you talk to people, you network, you showcase yourself because you are the product. And so getting the girls to understand that has really helped a lot because then we've built our team, which has been helpful. So we've got like the ambassadors and stuff. So that mindset to teach all the girls.
It's challenging.
Yeah, it's challenging. We got a few now that understand.
It's because they're used to such fast money. Understand that this won't last forever for them. So it's like there's going to be some point that if you don't put your time and energy into other things, what will you do after this?
Yeah, I definitely did not think like what's the long term when I first got into it. I was like partying, this is fun, I can buy things. And I just think a young age, like lots of girls do getting young, like we we were both young.
How old were you latest when you got into the industry?
19.
19.
I started sugar baby at like 16.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so young.
Yeah, very young. And then I started stripping legally when I was like 18. So like the second I turned 18, I was like, yep.
There's a part of me that thinks like 18 is too young.
Yeah.
You know, I just think 18 is too young to step into this industry because there is obviously substances. You are very impressionable at that age. I didn't get into this industry till 25. So for those like girls, they watch me and they think that I've been in a long time. It's like, no, I've only been in this industry 4.5 years. And I've even went into master classes where girls have been like, oh, how can I learn something for someone who's only been in this industry for this long? And it's like, but I've made millions. And I think it's actually the flex that I haven't been in a long time, but we're not taught and there is no official training. So when girls step into it when they're 18, it's not their fault. They're not shown another way.
Like you said, you're impressionable and it's like fast money. So, and you only really develop at 25. I mean, my brain probably kicked into like really push the business at 23. And then like I got a partner and that helped as well to settle the partying and everything. And you're like, right, what am I doing? And you kind of look back and go, I feel like I've wasted like
All those years.
Yeah,
definitely.
So you really don't want to get to the end of like you start at 19, you're 30 and look back and go, what have I done?
Kind of leads into our next question. So, you know, speaking about when you're young and you're impressionable and people do take advantage, do you drink or have used drugs at work?
I'm not a big drinker. So I have obviously like had a couple of drinks, but I am very conscious of like a lot of women that I work with. I aim to get them to work sober. You should be fun. You should be the life of the party without actually having to party. Because in my mindset, it's like you're here to fulfill your clients' needs, right? To make sure that they're having a good time, bring a lot of value. And I don't feel like I need drugs or alcohol to do that. And to teach women to want to work sober is really hard, but to make out like you're partying, you know, because you don't want to be that girl that says typically don't drink as well. So that's really important with what I teach the girls. So I'm not a big believer that girls should party with the clients because you can't back it up. It's not good for your mental health for long term. Drinking is a depressant. There is all those things. There's obviously been some wild bookings. And you know the ones that end up, they're usually privates. They're not so much the club. But they're the ones where people go for days and things like that. I think people are often surprised that I'm actually very vanilla when it comes to that side of things. Like, I think because I actually I was a professional athlete for 4 years and used to compete and was a nutritionist. So I was never a party girl. I've never actually ever been a party girl. Even though my job is to party, I think I'm really great at like entertaining people while they party. But I've never really wanted to party or be a party girl. So that's always been quite easy for me to like avoid that. But a lot of girls that I take on, especially I've just come back from New Zealand, the culture there is to party. Is to drink. It's just like you start and that's the way. And every girl drinks it. Like that's like there's no one works sober. It's just not really until I'm coaching them now. We're going to change this. But it does happen, but I don't think that that leads people to where they want to be. And it's not even the night, like you might have fun in that moment, but I just think, well, like the next day and how quickly you're able to bounce back. So I am not for it. But in my younger days, obviously, I've went to festivals and had a good time, but I don't do any of that now. I don't even drink coffee now.
Oh,
like,
really?
I don't even consume caffeine. That's how strict I am on being like, I don't want that kind of stuff in my body.
Yeah, I did see on your story once you had like fish hitting it up 4 a.m. or something.
Yeah, I'm having like salmon and fish.
Yeah, so having that background, that would have helped a lot.
It freaks girls out when I say this, that I'm not into that because I think they think, oh, you know, if they are someone who likes to have a drink. And I'm like, I don't mind that you guys like to have a drink or like to party a little bit, but it's like, can you just do it less?
Yeah.
You know, it's not about maybe cutting it out for you if you're someone that really does enjoy that kind of thing. For me, most of the girls by the end of working with me won't do any of those things anymore.
If you do it on a Saturday night, you can be wrecked until Wednesday. And it's like,
yeah, how can you shop the next night and hustle the same and be there start to finish and give the best version of yourself? You can't.
That's why we just did 2 episodes with a therapist and a counselor because we really want girls to like start the foundation like of making your mental health healthy, because if you go to work and need substances to actually do the job,
There's something wrong.
yeah, we really want them to get their mental health better because then they can actually work properly and then make good money, and understanding that and flipping that is very hard. So out of all of the material you have, which are a lot, what is like your number one thing that you would want people to take away?
That's a hard one because there's so many different areas. I think the biggest thing for when it's like women in this industry specifically is like the whole focus point that I think has been like the core of it is that you can't do it forever. And wanting to see women actually step into their time in this industry, make the most of it and set themselves up so they actually exit with something to show recovery is probably like the core of what I want them to take away from working. Whether they drink, not drink, whether like it's not even if they're making more money or not, but it's like to actually want to go down this avenue. I don't really put this online or portray and sell it this way, but the psychology behind my course is actually personal development, and it's all about just being 1% better every day, and to put them on that journey for even after their time in this industry. Doesn't matter if they want to be business owners, entrepreneurs, anything like that, that they are just focusing on being the best version of themselves and constantly upgrading that. And that will never end. And long after me, that they seek other mentors in their life who are so much further ahead than them and can save them time and just ultimately help them be the best version of themselves. I think you have one life. What's the worst that can happen, and it's scary to try, because a lot of people want to stay in their comfort zone. So I think, if it was to come down to the core, it's like I want women to take away that they will only grow when they're uncomfortable. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's probably the messaging that it's not easy to work with me. I really push the girls to be really uncomfortable into their limits, but it's because I want to see them make change and succeed.
Good. I think that's what they need, though. Like, not to sugarcoat it. And tell them how it is.
Yes. I don't think that gets anyone anywhere.
To end the podcast, what's one thing that no one would know about you?
Ooh, I love this question. This is a good way to end the podcast. Naughty or not naughty? I think a lot of people wouldn't think that I'm actually like a really big nerd, like a really big nerd. And I think people don't think that about me. Like, you look a certain way. If you look at my Instagram, I've traveled the world and done a lot of photo shoots. I work in the club. And with that comes like a stereotype about, I think people assume. I love reading. When I get ready to go to the strip club, I will listen to Hamilton the musical. It's about history. And I'm like I'm just so happy with like the simple things, to be home, to get a good night's sleep, to eat a steak. Like it's like I am so simple, but like really nerdy when it comes to night. Just that obsession with always just wanting to be better, to learn, to grow. And I think there's like normal, and I'm like probably up here. Like I'm very obsessed with when I'm trying to work on something. I don't think people think I'm really like that. I do it for who I am. I think there's this version of me that shows up online. You're the mentor to motivate everyone, and then you go to work and then you're the party girl. But like who I actually am in my home life is just this whole other side that I just don't think people think that I'm like. So really big nerd.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I learned a lot with that.
If girls want to join your course, how do they find you?
At the Ventress is the Instagram. And I mean, you guys might have the links. I think you will probably put it in. So Instagram is the best way to reach out. For our 10-week program, we only do 4 intakes a year now, due to, I don't actually believe in just taking on everyone. I actually want to take on women that are really serious and committed. They can be scared. That's normal. Like I have a lot of women, but generally they can just reach out to me on there, and about to release a digital product very soon. So that will be accessible and a lot more affordable to girls that want to get started as well, for everyone, probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks as well. That will be coming.
Thank you for watching, everyone. Make sure you like, follow and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next podcast.